Hello, here's a quick update on what's been going on with the Lotus for the past little while. Starting from the rear, this wireframe has been remade to fit this Lexus SC400 wing, and then I've added these rear sections to close it off, and the taillight will go in between those. And then the top section of the fender is finally closed off, which means the C-pillar can finally get welded in place and located. With that, the C-pillar is basically holding the rear section of the fender in place from moving up and down. And then more work on the C-pillar. This inner panel has been made, which is basically this piece that corresponds to that. And then these have been located along with that. The lower portion of the window has been made. I still need to trim it, of course, like all things. From there, in the trunk, these extension panels pushing the wheel wells outward to match the extra width of the cage have been welded in place, so I can get ready to locate this cover right here separating the firewall or the wheel well. These panels set the height of the fender basically, so these need to be located very well, otherwise one fender will be higher than the other. Right now they are cleat-coated in place, so they are holding the fender pretty good, but I want to be real sure before I weld them down. And that's pretty good progress on that, a lot of fiddling around to get all of those to work together. From there, some more work on the interior. Well, not really. Mostly I got this panel in right here. This is the seal surface to the door, and if this thing wants to adjust to the light, I've welded in most of this firewall panel. Well, it is welded in, and then all of this has been welded in. I'm trying to get all that squared away. This is a lot bigger than it needs to be, because of course I just need the sealing surface. I probably could have just cut it right along there and it would have been fine, but it's extra strength, so we'll keep it. Maybe throw some dimple dies in there though, make it look fancy. And this portion right here is kind of a nexus point for all of these panels, just because I didn't have the forethought to cut them all and engineer it in a way that they all come together cleanly. So there's one panel, the first one I made, and then the second one to close it off to match the curve of the fender, and then this guy coming in here, and then the B pillars have been trimmed to match. So up next, with the B pillars, I've actually had about an inch trimmed out of them, and a flat plate welded to the end. You can kind of see it over there, just for more headroom, and I didn't need this isn't a structural part, it just holds the door seal. And so the next step will be to set the door back in its hinges, so I have this height set, and then make a little panel to close this off and finish off the side barrel right there up to the fender. Moving along to the front, don't mind that. Lower section of the sill has been reinstalled. It's one of the first pieces I did, but it's taken me a long time to actually get it welded back in place, and it looks really good finally having the fender closed out. There's still some trimming to do, though I haven't trimmed it because I'm not sure if this line was cut perfectly straight. So if I trim this panel to fit this one, it might not be where I want it to be. I might want to trim the hood and bring that line up a little bit. Semantics, but this panel right here has been added. This is coming up against the door right there. It's finally tacked in place, so I can weld it when I want to, but I just need to be sure I have it where I want it and everything's trimmed right. The hood got a large section of the top blocked out with these two panels and a little bit of scrap right there. The tops of the fenders been struggling with for a while. I finally got them figured out. Got this intersection closed off for the first time, and then the tops both closed off. Little gap right there, but we can deal with that later. So all of that has been pretty well done. It's quite a bit more surface closed off on the bodies, running along there and right there. The hood, the engine sticks out quite a bit from the hood surface, so I haven't figured out how to deal with that yet, mostly because the intake is going to come out all the way to about here with that same height of the, another 2 or 3 inches higher than the rest of the hood. And it's going to look funky to have that big of a bulge. So coming along this side, you can see it a little better. It's quite a bit more body on the car. And during the past couple months, I also pulled the motor, all the front suspension, and repainted everything in there. So let me set that down. There we go. So everything up to about here has been repainted, and then all the inside of the firewall. So the main purpose here was I had to pull the motor to change the starter out just by the way the transmission adapter goes. The transmission adapter plate covers the bolts to the starter in the middle of the V there. So I had to pull the motor to get all that done, and figured it last time I'm going to do that for a little while. So I just quickly spray painted everything, and more importantly, fixed all the brake lines in place all the way down to the back, and threw in some metal brake line, fuel line. I just gotta trim them right here, figure out where exactly I want them to go. Gotta replace the fuel line on the fuel rail here before I can figure that out. But that's in place. I just recently made a hold for the battery, so it'll go in between there and sit below the hood, because if I set it on there, it just touches the top of the hood, and that's not exactly great for a battery. But that took a lot of time getting all that squared away, but it means this whole section's done. I just need to paint from here back for the rest of the car, seam seal everything. And yeah, I think I'll pull it outside and give you guys a little better look just how the car looks. Finally having the rear end kind of sorted out, you can see the profile of everything, even if the rear end isn't actually finished. And yeah.